Are you a first home buyer who thinks that it is all too hard? Saving the deposit, trying to find out where to buy, what to buy, how to buy? Well, my name is Jane Slacksmith and I help first house buyers become first investment property buyers by understanding the rigor of being able to how to buy and where to buy so that your first property can become the foundation for your financial future. And I have been looking for a lot of resources and it's really hard to find information. However, I did find recently an amazing new TV show, The Secrets of the Money Masters, that shows on Channel 9 at 12 o'clock on Saturdays. And I'm so very lucky to have the host of the show, Vanessa Stoykov, with me to discuss the show. And I have to say, Vanessa, I just love the show. I love the way that you have taken these athletes on a journey with us. And look, it's absolute credit to you.
Oh, thanks very much. Look, it's been a labour of love, let me tell you. This is the 5th reiteration of the show, and it started as a very much an industry-based show called the Investment Series, where we made it really for financial advisors to teach them more around sort of high-end institutional fund managers. And so after 10 years of making this, we made one last year for Channel 9, actually, that had Blair McDonough in it. And this year we sort of ramped it up a notch and used 5 celebrities and gave them a money makeover, 5 athletes, and assigned them to a financial planner and assigned them their own high quality fund manager to teach them about how to grow their wealth.
So Vanessa, you've spoken to a lot of these athletes. Do they actually have it all together?
Yeah, definitely. When you look at these elite athletes, and like on this Saturday we had Jude, Bolton, the AFL player from the Swans on. Next week's Kyah, the Matilda. And you think, wow, they've got it all together because they're so fit and focused, and you think that they have money together. But the reality is that they're busy doing sport. They're busy with their careers, and they're used to having coaches to help them with their careers. So we added the concept of giving them coaching into money. And, they'd taken to it like a duck to water because they just didn't know what to do. But, elite athletes know how to take instruction, basically, and to follow great advice. So it was really interesting to A, see that they didn't know much about money, but B, that they very quickly realised that good coaching would help them along, and they were very quick to get on board.
That's a really good point. So athletes are actually used to having coaches, so I guess that they were coachable.
And that's the thing. It's like a diet. I keep thinking, why aren't I losing weight? Because I'm eating a muffin as I'm thinking that. And it's the same thing, you've got to be able to A, get the advice, and B, implement it, which takes discipline. And I think that's something we picked athletes for a reason, because they're naturally disciplined people, much more so than me or most people I know. But the general principles of creating wealth are pretty simple, is have a look at what you earn, have a look at your expenses. How can you bring down your expenses? How can you earn more? And how can you use the money that's left over to save, whether that be for your first house? I like what you're doing in helping people strategically pick a first property. But to get that first property, you need a deposit. And to get a deposit, rather than just putting it in the bank, it's great if you can pick a low risk investment to make your money work for you. And that's the sort of information that the average person just doesn't get. We don't learn it in schools. We don't understand. We understand bricks and mortar and banks. And whatever people invest in that, it's hard.
Look, I really loved the first episode with Maddie. Obviously, she's young, she's a paraolympian, she's an athlete, she's at an elite level, she's earning a really good income. But it was interesting that she also had the goal of becoming a first home buyer as well. And actually following her with the financial planner through the entire process, I found absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, agreed. It was a great way, and it was the first thing she needed to do, because he identified she needed peace of mind before she needed a property, and she needed to think about her property and then her retirement, and give her choices in her 50s. I'm 46 this year, so life moves fast, and suddenly you grow up in your mid 40s and you think, wow, I wish I had more choices. So it was a plan that helped her get not only her home, but peace of mind and career choices in midlife. And that's what I loved about what we did with Maddie, is because, she's already ahead of the plan. That's her nature, right? She's an overachiever and the most delightful young woman you'll ever meet. She's just literally radiates positivity. And she deserves it.
The interesting thing about Maddie is we didn't just look at, the home, the savings, maybe an investment. We looked at other things as well.
Yeah, so a few things. One was her superannuation, and I don't know where Paul set that up actually, most likely an industry fund. So she had to save $4,000 a year now in order for her to have enough for retirement. And who knows? I mean, by the time millennials get to retirement, there's going to be no 65, it's just not possible. But at least she'll be prepared. But then there were these investments outside of super that she had to make. So one of the things that OneView have done, and OneView are the people that own this program. We make the show for OneView. I host the show for OneView. Is go to all these high-end investment managers and ask them to lower their minimums so the average person could get in. So, the likes of UBS, biggest bank in Switzerland, and Orbis Investments, massive global firms, that has offices in London and Bermuda and everywhere else, and all these Platinum, all these high quality fund managers. We've now created a model portfolio through Mercer, who are one of the biggest asset consultants in the world, where you can get in for a minimum of $2,000. And I mean, these exactly, but yeah. Exactly. So what OneView have done is said, we can't promote all this high quality investing and then not give people a vehicle to do it. It's not fair. So, and their whole motto is simpler, fairer access to investing. So they've gone and negotiated this and asked Mercer to build this model. So it's a portfolio that is exposed to cash, fixed interest, global equities, infrastructure, all the things that, quite frankly, most of us have no time to understand or to research. But if you can put your $2,000 in, then $50 a week, you are now an investor. And whether it's for your kids, I mean, my husband and I did it day one when it launched because we want it for our sons. We want our sons to have something when they're in their mid 30s and 40s and either want to start a business or get a family home. And we can say, well, we've been putting this away for you forever. But $50 a week, you don't really miss. Like, yeah, you might think, I wish I had it, but there is a way to sacrifice $50 a week worth of spend if you try.
Well, that's incredible because that actually makes it affordable for everyone. It's not just an investment that only the very wealthy can actually participate in.
Exactly. But yeah. Exactly. So what OneView have done is said, we can't promote all this high quality investing and then not give people a vehicle to do it. It's not fair. So, and their whole motto is simpler, fairer access to investing. So they've gone and negotiated this and asked Mercer to build this model. So it's a portfolio that is exposed to cash, fixed interest, global equities, infrastructure, all the things that, quite frankly, most of us have no time to understand or to research. But if you can put your $2,000 in, then $50 a week, you are now an investor. And whether it's for your kids, I mean, my husband and I did it day one when it launched because we want it for our sons. We want our sons to have something when they're in their mid 30s and 40s and either want to start a business or get a family home. And we can say, well, we've been putting this away for you forever. But $50 a week, you don't really miss. Like, yeah, you might think, I wish I had it, but there is a way to sacrifice $50 a week worth of spend if you try.
I can't imagine the benefit of having a personal financial planner on your side from very young in your career. Gee, it would definitely make a big difference, wouldn't it?
It does. The earlier you start, the easier it is. And that's the reality of it. I mean, I'm 46, and starting at 46 is a hell of a lot better than starting at 60. But, starting in your 20s, it just makes it easier because compounding interest, and it's crazy that most people don't really understand the power of compounding, which is just the return your investment makes going back into your investment. So you're investing bigger and bigger sums without putting any additional money in. And it's like that lily pond thing, it multiplies itself. And after a while, the whole pond is full. Lily pads because of the multiplier effect. And that's what investing does. It just needs time. It's not a quick buck. I think probably property is a bit more tangible for people because you can go, I bought this property at 500 grand, I sold it for 700 grand, I've made 200 grand. That's a lot easier to understand than I've put in $50 a week, $200 a month for 10 years and my investment return is X. It's just not the same. It's not as easy to grasp. It's, it's probably not as interesting. Bricks and mortar, you can see it, you can touch it. But it's just a way of thinking for people to diversify. Yes, you want a property. You definitely want a property, but you also want investments and you want your super.
Now, Vanessa, you personally are committed to helping people become financially literate. Over 20 years, you've been running education programs like this. I noticed on your website that you actually have a quiz. And it's interesting, when I speak to a lot of the first-time buyers that I speak to, they don't know where to start and they don't understand what behaviours or maybe, the habits they picked up from their parents actually affect them. In actual fact, I also did the quiz.
I'd be interested to see what your results were. But the quiz is all about not what you know about money, but what you need to, what I call, unlearn. And it's all the habits we learnt growing up in childhood from our parents, from our family, that we get into around money that you don't really think about, but that you need to unlearn to actually grow wealth. And they are things like desire, like, do you spend on credit cards? Do you buy things that you can't really afford? Are they unplanned purchases, or is it action? Do you even know what to do? Do you know how to build a financial plan? Most people don't. Or, there's all these different dimensions. Focus, are you too focused on the short term and the things you want now, but forgetting about the medium and long term, like we saw in Maddie's story? So the test is just a quiz to make you think about. It takes 5 minutes. It's multiple choice questions to think about what are the things I need to unlearn about money so that I can start to grow a wealth plan. And I think the first thing, and again, I bring it back to losing weight all the time, but it's like you need to make a decision in your mind that you want to change, because if you were nailing it, you wouldn't be thinking about getting a money plan. You don't need one. If you're great with money and you're investing and you've got super and you've got savings, you're cool. You don't need to unlearn. But like most of us who want to do better, you do. So how do you understand yourself better? Know thyself, because once you know what your issue is, you can go about fixing it.
One of the things I found really interesting was the masterclass that Maddie did with Yu Ming Wang. He's an amazing man, obviously, but one of the things that I found interesting was he didn't just talk about money, he talked about the observer and being aware of the observer watching your habits. That's something I'd never even heard of before.
Yeah, exactly. Yu Ming was one of our money masters, and he's an incredible wise person. He runs the asset management firm for Nikko around Asia, and Nikko's the biggest asset manager from Japan. Like, he's a serious player, and we were super lucky to get him in for the time we did to shoot that masterclass. But he talked a lot about behavior, way more than he talked about the principles of investing, because to him, investing is all about psychology.
Look, I really have to commend you. I just find it amazing. You obviously are dedicated to helping people get on the path to their own financial future. And by doing this, by not just creating this series and, putting, I guess, elite athletes or celebrities in the place, so it makes it engaging as well, but also creating an investment vehicle that people can find affordable to invest in. I think that's really admirable. And thank you so much for what you're doing.
Oh, thanks very much. And yep, they can read all about it on the Money Masters website. There's just a link that says Masters Portfolio. Yu Ming and all the people in there, their firms are the ones that make up that investment. But more than that, people, I just really urge people to look after themselves and prepare, because in a world where the government won't be able to look after people in the future, we've done research that shows 8% of Generation X will fall short of comfortable retiring. That's my generation. I really worry about those millennials and younger who will have far less of a safety net than even we have. So people just have to take care of themselves. And, we've tried to make this as interesting and entertaining as we can, because we know finance is boring. We know no one wants to get technical unless you've got that brain. I don't have that brain. It's hard to understand. So, we're trying to use storytelling to get people to understand that, I want to look after myself, because, when I sit back as an old lady on the veranda, I'd love to think people saw our shows, took our master classes, read my book, and actually went, yep, I became an investor and I'm okay. And my kids are going to be okay, and my family. And, that's what it's all about, really.
Thank you so much, Vanessa Stoykov, for joining us. I can't commend it to you enough, guys. Get out there and catch that series, The Secrets of the Money Masters, on Channel 9 lunchtime on Saturdays. And obviously, you can go to the website to catch up on that. It's a great series. And Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today. Well, that's it, guys. That is the interview with Vanessa from The Secrets of Money Masters. Look, amazing story. I really encourage you to go and watch as much as you can around, people's financial journeys and what they need to do to get themselves on the path for financial success. Obviously, we are here to assist you in the First House Buyer series. We really are committed to assisting you in putting the investor mindset on when you're buying that first property, because that first property could become your first investment property and could become the foundations for your financial security. So stay tuned for future videos, and as always, here's to your property success.